This is my friend. This is a gift from a dear, wonderful person who is experiencing life to the max. So she gave me this because this is a wonderful fellow. Anyway, do you think I should warn the people? I think I should. Thank you. Warning. This is going to be a bit long because I'm going to have an awful lot of fun talking about something that's unscripted, little chit-chat off the cuff. And really, I'm inspired to share my views because, you're out of camera range. Well, okay, you're still out of camera range. Okay, I'm inspired to share my views based on the election that we just had. And quite frankly, you don't have to watch this because I'm really directing this particular video to high school students. One particular high school student that I don't know. I don't even know where he is. But I'm going to be talking about the views of Microdacism, and I hope you'll take the time to see this video through and eventually adopt some of the things, if it makes sense, adopt it. As a political party, he's going to have to rename it, of course, because, Microdacism is sort of like a pretty cumbersome word, But he can always say, based on the principles of Microdacism, to set the stage, and then call it something else. Call it Save the Earth Party. Call it Nature Party. Whatever. But here's what I want to talk to that one individual in the future, okay? First of all, you're going to have to rescue the planet from greed and hate, okay? It's not a very easy thing to do, but you're going to have to do it. And one of the ways to do that is start with education. You're going to have to revamp the educational system. What you're going to do, what I suggest that you do, is you look at the Montessori system. Based on the Montessori system, then you have an educational system for all students. Education has become a political tool, and that will not do. For example, taxes should be used to offer free education to every student that is worth it. I'm talking about our best and brightest 5% should pay no money whatsoever for their education all the way to the PhD. And what does the government get back for its money? Well, if you chose medicine, you work in a medical field. If you chose chemistry, you work in a chemical field. You see what I mean? If you chose education, you work in schools. And that's how you pay back. But let's not have a burden forever, for God's sakes. If you went all the way up to the PhD program in a medical field, and you became a medical doctor, let's say, then your obligation should only be for 10 years. That's it. For 10 years, you would work in the public hospitals. After that, go into private practice. That's how I feel about that. And I think kids, when they get into the sophomore year in high school, they should be given an ASVAB test to determine what they're good at. Look, they did it for me. I had a mechanical aptitude about 2. However, I scored pretty well in the graphic arts. So there you have it. So everybody in the sophomore year of high school, they should be given this ASVAB type test to determine what they're going to be good at, and they should be encouraged. Now, I know somebody's going to write and say, that sounds like socialism to me. Yes, it does. But I tell you what, it works, okay? We should be teaching subjects like home economics, okay? Science, literature, health. Those are the subjects we need to teach. and literature. We should really be involved in world literature and philosophy. Study the great minds, the great philosophers. That's what a school should do. Okay? And I just feel that that's the way it ought to be. Art, for example. Every school should have a music program. Every school should have an art program. That's what education should be about. Forget about grooming kids for fast food jobs and for political fodder. That doesn't work. Now let's get on to housing. I think we have enough regulations as it is, as far as housing is concerned. The only thing we need is that every community should have a housing board where we take a look at the needs of the citizens. And this board should consist of citizens, residents, that is, and business people in the real estate industry. And they determine what housing should be. As a matter of fact, we probably should deregulate some of these rules anyway because they are bypassed. Take racism, for example, and housing. They're bypassed. There's a thing called the Gentleman's Agreement, very much in effect in all communities in the United States, that determines who should live where, okay? Come on. Let's expose these little things and get a housing board to do that. Then moving on to transportation. Transportation is necessary. So we should have a value-added tax. If the car you drive is carbon neutral, then you don't pay any tax on that car. Period. Okay? And that's the way it ought to be. In your community, because you got to build roads, then you call it what it is. You have road tax. And the road tax is calculated based upon the weight of the vehicle and how many wheels hit the road. In other words, why should somebody who rides a little motorcycle with only 2 wheels pay the same tax as someone who's driving a 16-wheeler that's destroying the road? See what I mean? We got to have equity in our taxes. Period. And stop hiding taxes in nonsense. That's what I believe. So transportation, we should have a value-added tax. The guy who buys a $10,000 car, a car that is a basic transportation, carbon-neutral car, okay, he paid no tax for that car. It's basic. The guy who buys a Bentley, a $400,000 car, he should have a 100% value-added tax. So we go from 0 to 100%. I think that's fair, okay? I really believe that's fair. So, let's talk about health. Earlier, I touched on the idea that the government should have free education for our best and brightest. So, if they go to medical school, they should then be required to be medical practitioners in the public health programs, which is not to say that others are not welcome to work in the public health, because I got to tell you, people care. I believe that 85% plus of the people that you meet are people who care about themselves and their neighbors, okay? I believe that. Unfortunately, it's the 10%, the 2% to 10% who's got all the news, okay? I believe that capital crime, if the person is proven to be guilty, should be exiled. Get rid of execution. Come on, that's pretty barbaric. It doesn't serve a purpose. They should be exiled. We have more than enough islands out in the Pacific where they would be exiled to live among their peers. People who choose to do bad things. And living in an island out in the exile, what you do, you pay the islanders who live around that specific island So much for recapturing. Should they get a boat or leave the island, we will pay the citizens, the good citizens, to recapture them. You know, that's it. Come on, let's be civil, all right? Now, let's talk about health. We really ought to have health centers. Health, every neighborhood should have a public health center. And people should be encouraged to go in and get a CBC, get a checkup annually, so that the medical practitioners can determine where you are deficient in your health. That should be standard practice. And this health center should be able to prescribe diets, exercise programs, and so forth. Should you choose not to follow their advice, then you pay the consequences. You know, that is your choice. That's what I believe anyway. Now, let's get into business and taxes. I think everybody should be made to pay 30% income tax. Having paid their income tax, they would then have a say as to how the taxes are being used. For years, we have lived on the war mentality, where wars are good. Wars are not good. Wars are just created so that people who create weapons can sell weapons. That's the reason for wars. Take a country like Costa Rica, for example. You know why they don't have wars? Because they have no enemies. They don't go around the world making enemies so there can be conflicts, so that you can have wars, so you can spend your taxes on implementing machines of war. It's just the way it is. We don't create enemies so that we can have wars. Okay? So 30% of your income would go to taxes. The taxes would then be paid for things like free education and free health. And as for businesses, any business that create any product or service that is carbon neutral should not be taxed. Period. They're helping mankind. Any business that employs 10 people or less should be considered a hobby. No taxes. Come on. Do you know how difficult it is to start up in a business? Why are you burdening them with more taxes? 10 employees or less, no taxes. The employees are already paying 30% taxes on their income. Businesses that employ 100 people or more, no taxes. Why? Because the people are already paying the taxes and the company are reinvesting their profits back into the company so they'll provide jobs. You see what I mean? All of these corporations should be run like a non-profit. And I know somebody's going to write to me and say, you're talking about socialism. Yes, I am. Okay, there you have it. So, that's what I feel. But I'm not talking to my generation. We have been programmed for greed and hate. I'm talking about the guy in high school right now, where he'll be programmed for love, peace, harmony, integration, appreciation for diversity, a carbon neutral world, a world where we love and respect nature. And finally, I want to talk about religion. Everybody should be free to believe in whatever they want to believe in, because your belief system is important. If you want to believe in snakes, trees, mountains, rivers, whatever, okay, that's your right to believe it, so long as you don't harm yourself and the public and others. That's just my belief. And that's the way it ought to be. You know, it's a belief system, which means that it is not based on facts. It's based on faith. And everybody has the right. Let's say that you believe in an alligator. That's your right to believe in alligators as being noble and godly and divine or whatever. That's your right. Believe in whatever you want. But it's a belief system. And if you belong to an organized belief system, then that organization should be taxed based on the income that it generates. That's the only industry that should be taxed because it offers nothing in return. Okay, so there you have it.